Earlier this year, on March 22nd, private properties finally became a reality for JavaScript in ECMAScript 2022. As of ES 2022, if you start a class property name with the hashtag character, this will make a property private, meaning that this property cannot be accessed outside of the context of the class definition. This concept is called data privacy, and it's a crucial component of API or application programming interface design and creation. One of the best pieces of advice I've ever received is to program to an interface, not an implementation, which comes from the book Design Patterns, Elements of Reusable Object-Oriented Software, more popularly known as the Gang of Four for its four authors. And if you talk to developers that read books, it's probably the best one out there. The idea of an interface is that you create an agreement for a section of code, and you define how that code should be interacted with, as well as how data should be exposed. Notice for this square class, we want to create an interface where a user can initialize the length of a square with a constructor, and then we should be able to update the length of that square with an update side length method. Our square works great until someone comes in and breaks the contract that we set up. Specifically, that you don't fuck with the side or area properties, you just read them. This is where data privacy becomes important. With our hashtag syntax, we can now enforce that the interface we intended cannot be broken. Notice that in this example, an error is thrown if another developer now tries to change the side property directly, forcing them instead to use the intended interface. This hashtag feature is actually a huge deal because prior to this feature, data privacy in JavaScript class syntax has been a joke. The private property modifier that was only available in TypeScript was really not much better than the comment that we saw before, as you could easily typecast the object you wanted to get a private property from to get around this constraint. Outside of TypeScript, for the class keyword that arrived in Vanilla.js in ES6 in 2015, the common practice for data privacy in JavaScript classes was to use an underscore to mark a property as private. And as you probably guessed, all of us stereotypically mature and respectful JavaScript developers always followed those rules. But what if I told you that back in the before time, in the long ago, when Brandon Eich was chiseling JavaScript together for Netscape 2 in 1995, that there was actually a pretty great way to implement data privacy that has been mostly lost now to the sands of time. You see, before Let and Const arrived on the scene in 2015 with ES6, and can I just say that ES6 is clearly the baller of ballers when it comes to ECMAScript releases. I mean, just look at this. Let, Const, arrow functions, classes, promises? Damn. Anyways, Let and Const arrived on the scene and beat the literal fuck out of var. Don't worry, var had it coming. Var was just out of control. Block scope didn't matter. Var would hoist itself out of that shit. In a for loop, didn't matter. Var got out of it. Declared in another file? Psh, nice try. Var would always get out and get into the global scope. Well, everywhere that is except for one place, the closure scope. If var was declared inside of a function, it was limited to the scope of that function, which actually gave us all the tools we needed to implement robust data privacy and therefore build robust object-oriented APIs without the class keyword. You see, it's pretty clear that class was never actually meant to exist in JavaScript. The pressure of TypeScript's early success likely forced ECMAScript's hand a bit there, but really, object-oriented JavaScript with prototypal inheritance for composition and polymorphism was actually quite nice before the class syntax came and just ruined everything. But that's a story for another time. You see, when Let and Const came around, there was literally no reason to ever use var again, which means that the really cool wrinkle of a closure scope was essentially lost to time. Since if all variable declarations are block scope, then there's really nothing different or special about the closure scope of a function anymore. But now that you've heard the tale of the closure for yourselves, go and spread the word, my brothers and sisters, and let's build a better JS to give to our children. One that's free of the tyrannical grasp of classes.